Alright guys, so full disclosure here, alright? I am not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, okay? I'm independent. I think sometimes both sides are right, and right now I think honestly both sides are complete idiots and they're wrong, okay? All this stuff I'm going to show you guys is taken from multiple sources. I probably just picked the prettiest graph, the one that's easiest to understand, okay? Now this has anything to do with my political, economic views or anything like that in regards to what's on here. I'll tell you guys my opinion, and to be completely honest, out of all the slides, there's probably one slide in here where I actually have my own opinion, but I have information to back it up, okay? So, the thing you guys need to understand about commercial is that it's not just, oh, I want to buy this property, make some money. It's tied into the global economy. You have people buying commercial that also buy stocks, also buy bonds, that buy treasury notes, invest overseas, invest in businesses and everything else like that. So when you look at, anything usually over $1 million, $5 million, it's a whole nother realm of investing. It's not look at a duplex, see what I can make and how much money, and oh cool, I like how much money I make. You guys need to understand that a lot of this stuff is tied everywhere. These big buildings in San Francisco that sell, Hawaii, San Diego, New York, the people that make these purchases, even though they're not making very much money, there's reasons behind it. We're going to go over some of this, okay? But first, some of the basics. And anyone that was here on the last meeting, some of this will seem pretty familiar with you. Okay, so this is what's been going on with commercial real estate. Okay, this is how commercial property is analyzed. It's all formulas, okay? You take a property and you take how much income it's making, it's NOI, and you divide it by a capitalization rate. In the example here, I just picked a random property and saying it makes $200,000 a year, divided by 6%, okay? Basically, property is worth $3.3 million, okay? The cap rate is basically a snapshot as to what an investor is willing to make. The way you figure out a cap rate is the way you would figure out what the house next door is worth. Okay, you look at other retail buildings in the area, okay, this one is at a 6.5 cap, and it's in really good condition, and this one's in a okay condition, that's 5.5 cap rate. The property that's right here, it's kind of in the middle, same concept. You look at what the neighbors are selling for in the same style, same retail, apartment, office, whatever it is. You basically take their cap rates and apply it to what you think yours is. Okay. What's happening though, as everyone remembers, is that you have all these stores that are leaving, they're going bankrupt. So now you have all these, for example, retail centers that now have empty spaces. Not only that, but they're trying to get people to move in, so they have to charge them less rent. And you have people that are already in these retail spaces that are saying, I can't afford to pay $5,000 a month anymore. I could pay $3,000 a month. So all these rates the rental rates are dropping, and the vacancy rates are rising. All that means that you're going to make less money. Again, think of it if you have, a house or a duplex. You have a duplex, and they're both full, and now both of the tenants are gone. One tenant is gone, and one of them saying, hey man, I can't make a $1,000 payment anymore. I can only make an $800 payment. Do you want to let this guy leave? Only over $200 difference, and considering you can't even fill the second one up, and it's kind of the same concept. Okay, so with all this, the property is losing value. So that $200,000 a year it was making is now making $150,000 divided by the same cap rate. Now you have a property that's worth $2.5 million, lose $800,000 like that, and literally you're seeing that happen. You were seeing that happen like crazy. Not only that, but commercial delinquencies, basically foreclosures on the commercial end, was starting to skyrocket. Okay, the highest was in February, the first, second quarter of this year, where you had, 1 out of every 10 commercial properties were late in default, foreclosure, whatever you want to call it. So if you're an investor, okay, and again, I'm going to relate this to residential since I know most of you guys are residential brokers. If you know that the housing market is going down, are you going to want to pay more for that property, or are you going to want to pay less? Okay, why? Because you're going to want to make more of a return sooner, faster, more money, because you already know things are going down. Well, that is going to influence the cap rates. And as you can see here, as I was telling you guys, all this stuff, 10, 15% in some cases. Your average blended rate of foreclosure was like 9, 10, 11%. All the hotels, all the apartments were basically getting lost. 1 out of every 7, 1 out of every 8 apartment complexes and hotels were being foreclosed on around the nation. Okay. And again, what's going to happen is not only do you have tenants leaving the building, you have to charge less to the tenants you have, and you have to charge less to the new tenants coming in, and the market's getting crazier. You want more money. You don't want to just make 6%, you want to make 7.5%. So now you have drop in income, you want more money for your dollar, Now, what's happened now is that $3.3 million property is now worth $2 million in literally a matter of 6 months to a year. And that was happening like crazy all over the states, especially in hard-hit areas like Sac, Merced, Modesto, multiple places around the country. Okay? So this is just a little bit of a background of simple math, and again, this is a very simplified version of what's been happening. Okay? To give you guys an idea of how bad it was, 2010, 2011, you can see it's pretty much bottomed out. 2010 was the first time since World War II that a mall was not constructed in the United States. Hilltop Mall, Sun Valley Mall, malls like that. First time since World War II that there was no major mall under completion. Okay, to give you guys an idea of how bad it got. Okay. So, again, talking about the foreclosures, what's happening, kind of like with the whole interest only, where it's 5 years, 7 years, 10 years fixed. Foreclosures kind of have the same thing, and just kind of give you an idea of where the commercial is headed in regards to all these rates resetting of these properties that were worth $3.3 million that are now worth $2 million. Okay. So, now that we have a little bit of an idea excuse me, of how commercial property works, you guys have to understand the thing that all commercial real estate feeds off of is jobs. Okay, so in order to understand jobs, you have to understand the economy, you have to understand how people are reacting. So, how are people reacting today? Well, you have lower income households that they're just spending too much. You have people in the middle class that their income is too low, and you have higher income households that their safety is just so important, they're frozen, they're not doing anything. Okay, I don't know if this video is going to play, or excuse me. To give you guys an idea of what's been happening, everything in blue is the job change. Everyone remembers in 2008, jobs just fell off a cliff. Obama got elected, and they started to come off the cliff. You've even gained a few jobs, been up and down a little bit. Pay attention to the red line, though. The red line is consumer sentiment, how people feel about how everything is going. And as you can see, as soon as the recession hit, the sentiment just fell off a cliff because everyone was losing jobs. You have companies closing, people laying off tens of thousands of workers. And when we started adding jobs, it came up a little bit. But as you can see, it's back down now, lower than it's ever been. But we've been gaining jobs. Okay, so this video is going to explain a little bit to you guys in regards to why that's happening. Alright, that's right. I'll just play it through here. Give me a second, guys.
We've talked an awful lot about all of the jobs lost during this recession. Almost 7 million lost in the recession proper. The question is, are all these jobs the same? And the truth is, though, they are not. Let's look at what was going on before the recession, from 2001 to 2008. During that period of time, most of the growth was happening over here in the high wage area, above $70,000 a year. Middle wage is $35,000 and up. That wasn't so much. And lower wages doing sort of okay. That was before the recession. Look what happened during the recession itself. Suddenly, this middle wage group got pounded. Look at that, way down there. Higher wage, they lost some. Lower wage, they lost some. But bear in mind, this is roughly half of the country. This is what drives the economy, this big group in the middle. And as we look at the recovery that's happened since then,
sorry, it doesn't as loud as it gets.
Just a tiny bit in the mid-wages. Lower wage jobs, those have been coming back a fair amount, but these aren't the ones that are really going to support the economy. Oddly enough, the higher wage jobs are still actually losing some ground over here. But that's the big difference here. The jobs we lost beforehand were better than the jobs we're getting back right now. So a job is not a job, is not a job, is not a job. There really is a difference between them. And that's one of the reasons that even the jobs we're getting back, and what many people see as sort of a jobless recovery, are not strong enough to support the overall economy to bring all these other jobs.
And again, that's kind of to give you guys an idea as what's been happening with the job market. So you hear about adding all these jobs, again, going back to the slide a little bit. They're adding jobs. Why isn't the economy doing better? Because the jobs that they are adding are these people that are making under $30,000 a year. The whole $30,000 to $70,000 middle income class is gone. It didn't grow from '01 to now, or from to '08, excuse me, and they only gained, what, 1 million jobs, and they lost 4.5 million, and now they've gained back almost none. That driving force, the American dream, the whole middle class economy is basically, for lack of a better word, vanished or vanishing, depending on how you want to look at it. Okay. Okay. Just to kind of give you an idea of how bad it is right now. Okay. This is going back all the way to 1969 till now. Everything highlighted in blue vertically was a recession. You can see the 1980s recession, the '01 recession over there. Okay. The red line is the amount of people that were unemployed for over 27 months. And you can see right now, there's no comparison from our recession to the other recessions. Okay, and this is why we call this the Great Recession. The amount of people that are unemployed now, even compared back to the 80s or the '01s, and the length of time is quadruple what it's ever been. Okay. So in regards to, I guess you could say, the lower income, but this does apply to some middle income families, the parts of society. Too much debt, no savings. They had a poll recently, and they asked, you're going to have to, because I don't remember the amount of people, but they said, if you suddenly needed $1,000, where would you go? Where would you turn to? 9% of people said take out a loan. 17% said borrow money from family or friends. Another 17% said disregard other payments, I just wouldn't pay them. 12% sell or pawn assets, and 9% of people would just take out money from their credit card. That means there's 64% of America right now that does not even have $1,000 in their savings account. Liquidation, it's completely liquidated because they're spending money on bills, mortgages that are completely irrelevant right now, so on and so forth, and there's no middle income to back it up. Okay, just to kind of give you an idea of what's happened to the debt. This is from going back from '01 till now. I know it's a little bit smaller, so I'm going to blow it up and stretch it back from 1946. World War II time, your average household had 5% debt to income. They would have $5,000 of debt, but they'd be worth $100,000. And as you can see, America has basically become land of the debt. It's grown, hit, let me see, what is that, 16, 17% in the 90s, peaked off at about 26, 27% right before the recession. Everybody had loans up to their eyeballs. Okay, if any of you guys ever remember that commercial, I forgot what bank it was for, with the guy's riding the little lawnmower. He's like, I got a beautiful house and a beautiful, you know what I'm talking, beautiful kids, beautiful this, and I'm up to debt in my eyeballs, and you know, because he has no money, everything's on loans. And that's what everyone's doing, and they're paying some back. It's gotten better, but I mean, I still know people that they don't have money, and they're like, let's go to Vegas. Dude, you don't have any money. What are you doing? Like, what are you gonna do there? Are you gonna live in a box, or I'm just gonna drive? Like, gas is $4 a gallon, and you have people like this that they just don't get it. Versus you could say our parents, or the golden age, whatever you want to call it. It's just not even just the golden age or the new people. It's people all across the spectrums. Okay, spending is too high. Okay, this is consumption as a percent of income. I forgot what the numbers were before, but right now the reason they're trying to spur the economy and make everybody spend. We are 70% of our own growth, which basically means 30% of all of our money that makes our economy grow is from the outside countries. Guys, that's not how you grow. The reason China is blowing up right now is because China is selling things off to everybody. Regardless of how cheap it is, the reason China is expanding right now is because everybody wants what China has. Right now, basically what we're telling people is 30% of what we want is, or excuse me, out of all our income, only 30% do other people want more than ourselves. Okay, we're just spending too much, too high. And again, you can see it went all the way up to 70, 80, 78% or so, dropped down a little bit, and it's just spiked again. Again, you have these people that they don't have the money, they just want to go out. Okay, and the pace is increasing. Okay? As you can see, people finally cut back during the recession, but you can see how the rate that they're increasing, 2%, 2.2, 2.5%, 4%, and it just keeps on going up. They're spending at a faster pace than they were even before the recession. Okay. Now, one thing that I forgot to note, one of the past slides, to give you guys an idea of how bad it is. Newsweek conducted a survey. Obviously, it's unofficial. It's Newsweek, but Newsweek is fairly reliable. They said that they had people write in and say online that they would be willing to work for 25 cents an hour. Okay, to give you guys an idea, yes, to give you guys an idea of how bad it is. in the United States. These are citizens saying that they are so desperate for work they are willing to get a job that pays them 25 cents an hour. Okay. So the other thing you guys have to understand is inflation. If anybody's not familiar with inflation, inflation is basically stuff is always going to get more expensive with time. Gas, goods, food, so on and so forth. Okay. The red is core inflation. It takes out the two most, up and down ones, which is energy, basically fuel, and number two being food, because food goes up and down depending on how the harvests were and so on and so forth. The concept is you want to keep inflation 2 to 3%. You want prices to get a little bit more expensive over time. It's an economic thing, and I won't get too much into it, but a little bit of inflation is good, 2-3%. Once inflation starts hitting a lot, basically next year your money is worthless. To give you guys an idea, if you have $100 today and inflation is 2%, next year that $100 is really only worth $98. Okay, and as time gets on, it just happens over and over, and it happens in every society, always has and always will be. It's just something that's always existed. The thing is, you guys have to watch for is when you add in the energy and food, that makes the scale jump up and down. Obviously, you can see 08, that's when gas was $4 something, back down when gas was 2 something a gallon, so on and so forth. So gas and food, you want inflation to be relatively stable, but the thing is, gas and food plays such a big impact because that's something that we all need. They're basic commodities. Okay. So here's the other thing. Not only are people spending too much, not only do they not have any savings, even the people that do have savings, they can't save or invest even if they want to. A little bit hard to see for some of you guys in the back, but everything in black is the Dow Jones, the stock market. All the way down, all the way up, all the way down. And as you guys can see, it hasn't been a pretty picture. You have a lot of ups, a lot of downs. The thing that I added on this that I liked about this graph was, you see all these red marks and these blue marks? Those are 200 plus point days, not weeks, not months, that the stock market either raised by 200 in blue or dropped by 200 or more in red and stayed that way for the day. Okay? Obviously, basically what that creates is it creates huge volatility. Okay, to give you guys an example, basically what these people were saying was, on a day like here or any of these days, you could have a company like a Microsoft, Berkshire Hathaway, GE, that they're worth, I'm just going to make up numbers, they're worth $1 billion one day. And because the stock plummeted 500 points or 5%, the next day, that same company that didn't do anything, that's not like the owner's on crack or, his wife cheated on him and he got caught, nothing could have happened. Now it's worth 5% less from one day of trading. Okay. Also, it could be the same thing upwards. Basically, what's happened is the stock market has become a mood ring for anyone with a computer or a phone or that gets a Series 7, which costs like $2,000 and decides they want to trade for free. The stock market has basically become a giant mood ring. So here you have average Americans working 40 hours a week plus, at least, with family, with kids. They want to spend some time doing social activities, whatever the case may be. They can't keep up with everything that's happening on a 24-hour news cycle. What's happening is they're becoming susceptible to everybody else that can. They can't save. They can't invest. Okay? Just to give you guys an idea, this is the volume of trading, and you can see it's tripled on days like this. Has anybody, they had 60 Minutes had a special about this. Has anybody here heard of the robo-trading concept? Okay. For anyone that doesn't know, I strongly recommend you guys go take 15-20 minutes out of your lives, go to 60 Minutes and look up robo-trading. They did a whole special about it. Basically what it is, it's a computer, and they basically put in a math formula, an algorithm divided by a mathematician. It doesn't have anything to do with the stocks. Okay. Most people right here cannot name more than 10, 20 stocks of famous companies. Okay. There's probably, I don't know the exact number, 4, 5, 10,000 different stocks out there. Okay. No humanly way anyone can meticulously keep track of every single one. Okay. And all these robo trading programs do is you input the information and it follows formulas. It follows trend lines. If the stock starts to go down, it'll automatically start selling, and if the program thinks the stock's still going to go down, it'll short sell, so it'll make a little bit of money, and that adds to the volume. And what happens is that is caught on by other computers, and the other computers see that, and they keep trading, and they keep selling it, and basically what happens is you don't even have real people anymore. And to give you guys an idea, I think it was 03, 04, 30% of all stocks were done by computers, and only computers that people monitored. Now it's estimated to be over 70%. So almost 3/4 of everything that happens on the stock market is decided by a computer. It's not decided by a person. If tomorrow they came out with something saying that Warren Buffett dies of a heart attack, the computer is not going to know and sell it until it starts saying other people take the first step, and then it's somehow someone inputs basically the news in this computer program basically saying the head guy died, and then it'll start selling, but doesn't know what point to go. No, it's all formulas. Okay, how in the world does your average person that makes 40, 50, even $100,000 a year have a chance against these supercomputers that cost millions of dollars? Okay, they just can't invest. Okay, so what are these higher income people and these super savvy investors doing? Stock market's crazy. No jobs besides the lower income wages. Basically what they're doing is they're putting money in the bank. Okay, but how much are they putting? So much money, Mellon Bank, which I believe is based in New York City, is going to start charging their highest depositors money to keep their money in the bank. In other words, imagine going to any bank and saying, hey bank, I just got my check for $10, $20, $30, $50,000. Here you go. And they go, okay, we're going to charge you 2% a month for holding the money. That's exactly what they're doing to their highest depositors. So not only they're not even paying any interest, they're actually charging people. Yeah. JP Morgan received $53 billion in deposits from 1 quarter, so basically a 4-month time span, only from depositors from Greece. Depositors, individuals, wealthy individuals, companies, so on and so forth. $53 billion in 4 months, mainly because of what's happening with Greece and if they default or not. Okay, so what they're all doing is they're running for safety. They're putting money in banks. However, inflation happens, so you know if you put your money in a bank, your money's going to be worth less next year. Okay, if you have $100 today, next year it's going to be worth 98. Now imagine that on a multi-million dollar scale. If you have $100 million, next year it's going to be worth $98 million. And you're probably going to get charged for keeping it in the bank. So these people still have to grow a little bit. But the stock market's too crazy. You could lose 5% one day, gain 6% another day, lose 10% one day. And it's all based on, math. You have no say in it. It's not like anything real anymore. So what they're doing is they're throwing money in Treasury Bills or Treasury notes, which is basically bonds that the government sells, and in gold. Okay? So just to give you guys a visual idea of how much money is in banks right now. Before the crash, 250 billion or so. Okay, this is all commercial banks. After the crash, 600-ish billion. Now, almost $1 trillion in cash is sitting in banks because these people can't put it in the stock market because they could lose 5, 10, 15% like that. Okay, to give you guys an idea, gold was 1,900 a week ago or so, a week and a half ago, and now it's down to 1,550, and they're saying it might drop down even more. So imagine in a week, you have $1,900 in a bank or anywhere, and your 1,900 went to 1,500. You lost 30%, or excuse me, 20, 25% like that without even doing anything. Nothing major has even happened to lose this money. These people want to keep their money safe. Okay. So, talk a little bit about T-bills. Treasury bills, treasury notes, whatever you guys want to call them, is basically the rate that the government will pay back, just like a war bond or any other kind of bonds that you guys are familiar with. Okay. Back in 2011, T-bills, which is the red line, used to be 4.75-ish. You see they kind of went up a little bit. They kind of dropped off end of July, early August. When I say they're tied to everything, the blue line, which basically follows the trend, is a 30-year mortgage, which your average homeowner is going to pay. The green line is what your average 15-year mortgage person is going to pay. Okay? The T-bills go up, 30-bill goes up. T-bill goes down, your mortgage payment's going to go down on your interest. Okay? Well, if you get it back then. Okay? So here's my question. It plummeted from 4.25 to 3.5 or so in what looks to be a week or two. Does anybody remember what happened back late July, early August that might have done this? Anybody remember hearing everything about the whole debt ceiling thing going on? Okay. So let me explain a little bit about what the debt ceiling is. What happens with the debt ceiling is the government's already said we're sending out all these checks. It's already on our balance sheets. It's already done. we're going to pay the military this amount of people, we're going to pay Social Security this amount, we're going to pay our employees this amount, so on and so forth. It's already done. Okay, it's already been negotiated. Oh man, my credit card's starting to get maxed out. These payments are already in motion, but my credit card is starting to get maxed out. We need to raise the debt ceiling. Now you could call this Republican, Democrat, whatever. All I know is that this thing has been done 70, 80, 90, 100 times in history. Bush, Clinton, Reagan, the other Bush, you name it, they've raised the debt ceiling. It's routine. Okay, they made such a big debacle. Okay, you could blame it on whoever the hell you want. They made such a big debacle that when the world's biggest economy can't even do something as routine as raise the debt ceiling, as pay a bill that they've already basically sent the check out for, everybody's going to get worried. Okay, what people are worried about, for anybody that knows there's multiple factors, but the main thing that caused the market to collapse, collapse in '08, was Lehman Brothers. Okay, in '08. The stock market was, I want to say, at 13,500 or so, the mid-13s. They filed bankruptcy over the weekend. By the end of Monday, it was down like 1,000 points or so, 2,000 or 500, 1,000 points. In 1 month, the stock market, because one company filed bankruptcy, one global company that handled everybody's investments, because one company filed bankruptcy, one huge multinational company, stock market in a month went from 13.5 to 18.5. And again, think about this in dollars. Imagine you put $13,000, 13,500 into a bank, and a month later they say, "Oh, sorry, we only got 8,500 left. Sorry," and you didn't even do anything. Now imagine that on a millions, billions, trillion-dollar scale, all around the world. Okay, the reason everybody's so paranoid is because what if the United States defaults? What's going to happen? This is a company that sent helped destroy the whole economic thing when it crashed. What's going to happen when the United States goes bad? We're the biggest economy in the world. What's going to happen? Okay, and that's what everyone was getting scared of. Here's the ironic part. Okay, I'll ask John. John, you have tenants, I presume, right? If you have a tenant that's paying $1,000 a month, okay, and they have perfect credit, and you have that same tenant, let's say he's going to go rent another one of your properties, but basically you check his credit score and his credit score is dropped. Are you going to trust that tenant more, or are you going to be a little more leery about that tenant? Okay. When you're safer with something, aren't you willing to accept less of a return? Like we talked about in the commercial thing, when stuff gets a little crazy and you're not sure about it, you want more money for it, right? Okay. So here's the ironic part. What happened with the United States credit? It got downgraded. You would think that everyone would be like, "Oh my God, the United States is no good anymore. Get our money out of the United States." That's going to send the rates sky high. The complete opposite happened. The credit, they solved the whole debt thing the day before it was supposed to happen, like everybody knew it was going to happen. Okay, but after it happened and they got downgraded by Standard & Poor's, everybody thought, "Oh no, everybody's going to pull their money out of the stock market, out of the United States, and put it in other stuff that's safer, and stock market's going to crash." And everybody bought more United States bonds. They bought T-bills. So when you buy something in mass, that's how the whole thing went from 3% to almost 2% in a month and a half time. So the whole debt debacle thing, you guys can actually thank everybody in office right now for all these rates being 4%, because it's completely their fault. Okay, it's completely opposite than what they thought was going to happen. But the reason rates are 4% right now is because other investors got scared and went, "Oh my God, the United States got downgraded. We need to buy more United States stuff," which is completely backwards. Sent the rates plummeting, and now everybody can get a loan for 4% on a 30-year mortgage. Okay. To give you guys an idea of how much of a difference this makes, for every 1%, I read this somewhere, I have multiple spots, you can just forgive me. For every 1% increase in interest globally, United States-wise, for every 1% increase, it costs people an extra $150 billion, basically in interest, that they get nothing back for. For every 1% decrease, it basically saves your average population $150 billion in interest payments.